Why does the music of Sleep Token captivate me so? We can take a deep look at some of the elements that make them unique and interesting. The first one being their look and mystique, of course, creating this whole aura of mystery and lore around themselves. Or we could focus on Vessel's extremely strong and unique vocal melodies and phrasing. Or perhaps we could look at the enigma of a drummer too, who, let's be honest, is an absolute beast behind the kit with his tight grooves and absolutely fantastic sounding drums. Or we could take a look at how they blend a wide variety of genres together in a very pleasing and natural way. But honestly, boys, there are a lot of other bands which do similar things and have these elements. Bands with great looks, great singers, fantastic drumming, and also a ton of modern metal bands who blend genres seemingly at will. But to me, Sleep Token's real strength comes on the back of their songwriting. Moreover, a very unique and specific songwriting pattern, which once you notice it, you will hear it forever. Well, hello my friends, we meet again. It's been a while. Where should we begin? Now, I know Sleep Token isn't exactly the type of band that I feature on this channel, nor do I really think they are a real metal band. To me, they're much more of like an art pop band with a lot of modern metal influences. But don't worry, right after this video, we will get right back to our normally scheduled pure metal bands, death metal riffs. So if that interests you, make sure to hit that sub button. And I just want to give a big shout out to all my YouTube members and Patreon supporters. You guys are absolutely the best. Anyways, enough shilling. Let's get into the formula here. So, Sleep Token became known to me when a friend shared their song Jaws to his feed. Now, this is way back in the innocent times of 2019, and this friend was a real hardcore metalhead. So imagine my surprise when the song started out extremely softly, with piano and a little bit of percussion and some beautiful singing. Stand under the stained glass and I will know. And then the song, evolves slowly and methodically over its 6-minute runtime, eventually introducing metal elements and featuring some of the standard song structure you would come to expect, right? It has verses and choruses and a bridge, so nothing real extraordinary here, but these grand juxtapositions of sound between the very clean pianos and percussion to those huge distorted wall of down-tuned guitars sound was very, very, very intriguing to me. And of course, pairing things like this together with huge changes in dynamics is nothing new, right? Which I will repeat, I don't really think Sleep Token is doing really anything new with their sounds here. They are just crafting extremely well-written songs which take you on a sonic journey. Now, this is all part of the genius of Sleep Token and how they're able to craft their songs in a very interesting way. Now, Jaws is a fantastic example of their songwriting style here. The whole song builds through varied parts, pianos, percussion, drums, choruses, 808s, which all builds until we get this huge breakdown near the end of the song. Now, this slow build-up and storytelling through music is what really makes their music intriguing, captivating, and most importantly, replayable, addicting, you could say. Throughout this song, we have basically 8 different songs worth of sounds and styles all put together in a way that constantly builds and holds your attention, only for it to take a huge right turn at the end. This, in essence, is the Sleep Token formula, or what I guess I actually should say is the Bohemian Rhapsody formula that Sleep Token have used and commandeered for their own purposes here. Take an idea for a verse, chorus, and a bridge. Start out soft, small, and gentle. Open your eyes. Well, you were late in bus, living on a Over the course of the song, slowly build up with new elements borrowed from basically any genre you want. EDM, hip-hop, gospel, metal, trap, you name it. Before, at around halfway to about 2/3 of the way through the song, take all the previously established ideas, throw them out, and hit us with a complete right turn in dynamics. But in this huge turn in dynamics, remember to bring back elements from earlier as this dynamic shift progresses throughout the song. This creates a song which is memorable, replayable, and addictive. The climax of the song usually begins right when the dynamic shifts or shortly after. This causes you to want to listen to the song over and over again to get to that sweet, sweet release of tension. Or what I like to term here, reactor bait, which I know is ironic considering this channel has a complete series of reaction content, but I know you guys know what I mean here. In essence, this style of slow burn songwriting is almost the opposite of what metal is right now, what modern metal is. It forces you to wait for the good part, rather than the modern approach of hooking the listener in right away with the catchy part. Sleep Token, in complete defiance of what modern algorithms and songwriting classes would teach you, makes you wait a little bit for the climax, makes you wait for the hook. It is like the antithesis of modern songwriting. Really, the way that they structure their songs, like I said earlier, is basically ripped straight from Bohemian Rhapsody. A slow burn intro before about halfway to 2/3 of the song through, giving us this huge crescendo high, which is followed by a big change in instruments, right? Going from the pianos and choral arrangements of Bohemian Rhapsody to the solo, right to the riffs. But Sleep Token does something similar, but usually they go to huge down-tuned, gent-inspired guitars, right? And oftentimes in songs we get multiple peaks and valleys, multiple grand juxtapositions of sound and dynamics. Again, sort of much like Bohemian Rhapsody. Take the song Take Me Back to Eden for a good example of this. The song goes up and down, but in general still features the slow burn feel to a crescendo towards the end of the song. Again, creating a very captivating and repeatable song. Now behind me here is a list of all their songs that do this and have this songwriting style, which you can go and check out for yourself. Now, of course, they don't stick to the songwriting style religiously. Songs like Do You Wish That You Loved Me and Aqua Regia stick, directly to the art pop sound. Now, they really sort of had this songwriting style solidified right from the get-go on the EP1, but in my opinion, they really nailed down this formula completely on their 2023 album, Take Me Back to Eden. And they have taken this formula to their newest two singles as of the release of this video, Emergence and Caramel, which these two songs essentially follow this formula exactly. So let's focus on just a few songs here, right? But real quick, before we do, if you guys are enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like. Helps out the video and the channel far more than you think. Cheers, boys, and if you like the stuff, remember to hit that sub button too. Now, The Apparition was easily one of my favorite songs off Take Me Back to Eden. The song starts as most Sleep Token songs do, very quiet and subdued, usually just with Vessel's voice and a lone instrument accompanying him.
Why are you never real whenever you appear?
Now, as the song continues on, it evolves, adding new elements and completely changing the feel and vibe of the song multiple times.
So let's make trouble in the dream world. Hijack.
Again, sort of like Bohemian Rhapsody here. Before, at almost exactly halfway through the song, completely changing the entire vibe of the song with that signature huge wall of down-tuned guitars, combined with these soaring synths and Vessel's always fantastic vocals. Now, this song is sort of like a microcosm of this formula. Extremely catchy, memorable vocal lines, complete with a slow burn of instruments into an incredible crescendo wall of sound. The Apparition is such a great example of this formula, as not only is this huge crescendo moment paired with a grand and extremely memorable vocal melody, it then continues on reusing some of the previous elements showcased earlier in the song, combined with the huge dynamic shift of those down-tuned guitars. And by being less than 5 minutes long, it creates this insanely addicting and replayable song, as we have so come to enjoy these huge dynamic shifts that we don't mind the slow burn into them. In fact, it makes these moments even sweeter. Like I said earlier, Sleep Token almost makes you work for these moments, rather than just handing them out willy-nilly to grab your attention on a playlist. These songs demand your attention, right? Sucking you in with the softer intros and growing tension. It is truly very unique to them in this modern art pop metal space, and honestly, I absolutely love it. And just a side note here, the huge downtuned guitars seem to serve a dual purpose. They do act as like melody and chordal instruments, and sometimes play what we could consider to be a riff, but most of the time they actually act more as the way someone would use like huge bass synths for chord progressions in like EDM or something like that. These guitars act and are used much more as like sine wave pads than guitars usually, which is very, very interesting. And secondly, the guitars themselves being so low in tuning and in frequencies really allows Vessel's more baritone voice to shine, right? A standard tuned guitar would almost be fighting for the same sonic real estate, so to speak. Now, we've been looking at this formula, right? Slow burn, Bohemian Rhapsody style of songwriting, but sometimes Sleep Token does the exact opposite of this. Take the song The Summoning, for example. We start out extremely high energy with this huge walls of sound and crazy downtuned breakdowns, before once again near the end of the song, the band hits us with another huge right turn in dynamics, another reactor bait part of the song, right? But rather than getting heavier, which would normally be the thing most would expect them to do, they take the song in a completely different direction. Now, of course, this sort of funk groove, crooning, whatever you want to call it here is very exciting in its own way. And it sounds even more funky and groovy because it is contrasted directly with the previous huge wall of distorted guitars and pounding drums. Now, they only do this style sparingly, right? The vast majority of the time, it is a slow burn Bohemian Rhapsody style. And if you look at their most popular songs, they almost all follow this same formula. Emergence, Caramel, Rain, Take Me Back to Eden, Granite, Jaws, Alkaline, The Apparition, Chokehold, Atlantic, and countless more, right? Now, it is one thing to identify this pattern. It is another to have the immense talent, skill, and creativity to write such memorable, catchy, and varied songs. Now, when you combine this formula with all the other things that I mentioned earlier, which makes Sleep Token great, the look, the aura, the mystery, the great singing, the fantastic lyrical phrasing, the excellent drumming, it's no wonder why they have achieved the great success that they have. And using their sort of Bohemian Rhapsody style of songwriting, they continue to write such excellent and memorable songs.